especially Leah. Thank you. Thank you. And what a high bar you have set with an icebreaker. I had the pleasure of actually listening to Leah rehearse a speech yesterday and then to hear it again today. And I'm blown away by your aptitude for speaking just right out of the gate. Tonight, I'd like to tell you some things I think you did well, one or two places where I think you could improve, and then a few things that you excelled at. So first, I want to point out that Leah really has mastered this online virtual environment. Her camera's set up well so that she was able to stand, or that we were able to see the upper half of her body so we could see her gestures and her movement. She's wearing neutral clothing, so there's nothing really kind of distracting there, and her background's tremendously neutral. So from that perspective, we're focused on Leah, what you have to say, and not kind of anything else that might be going on in the background, like, what's that painting? Or, oh, hey, look, there goes a cat, right? You've totally minimized all those distractions. And I think it's a really good model for what we should all be doing when we speak, so that people listen to us and are not distracted by the background. Two very minor points on things that I think you can improve upon. And they're not minor points, but they're very fine points that as somebody's a new speaker, I would not expect you to master. But since you did so well, I want to give you just these little bit of feedback. One is that I found that you swayed a little bit while you were talking. You were shifting your weight, rocking back and forth. That's a really common thing for people who are just starting to speak, or for me, like when I'm tied to a camera and I don't feel like I can move around the room because I really like to move when I talk. That can be just a little bit of a distraction, so be mindful of that. Another thing that you did, but I think you could do even better, was your use of pauses. And we actually talked about this yesterday. I felt that you added pauses, but there were several places where you could have added a few more or drawn them out a little bit more to really add that punch. You had told me that you wanted to speak with power and emotion, and I think a great example was at one point you said, I felt like a failure. And you put some pauses in there, but you could really punch the whole situation up, saying something like, I felt like a failure. That pause right before the word failure really emphasizes it, or a really long pause after saying, I felt like a failure. That really can add a lot of emotion to your speech. And then one thing that I think that you excelled at, and I'm truly blown away by this, is your speech craft. Not only was your speech well organized with an introduction, an issue, you outlined the issue or the challenge, and then you provided a solution and even a call to action. You used a quote. You had a great analogy woven all the way through of resilience and the rubber band. It was in your title, it was in your conclusion. You talked about stretching and relaxing and stretching and breaking. And I just love that imagery that you used throughout. And then again, you, as I mentioned, brought in a quote and a call to action. So, Leah, very impressive. I look forward to hearing more speeches from you. Thank you so very much, Madam General Evaluator.